Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 14 years now, we've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Scott Schubiger, the Chief Development Officer of the Massage Heights franchise opportunity. And Massage Heights is a family-owned massage and wellness franchise dedicated to elevating the lives of others by providing members and guests with professional, affordable, and resort-quality massage, skincare, and wellness services. And we're going to talk to Scott about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 14 years now, we've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Scott Schubiger, the Chief Development Officer of the Massage Heights franchise opportunity. And Massage Heights is a family-owned massage and wellness franchise dedicated to elevating the lives of others by providing members and guests with professional, affordable, and resort-quality massage, skincare, and wellness services. Hi, Scott. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Marty. Thank you for having me today.
This is my pleasure, Scott. We would like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, Scott?
I'm calling from my home office today in Morristown, New Jersey.
Oh, fantastic. I grew up in New Jersey, Scott. So, so
nice.
I know New Jersey well, and I'm not that far from New Jersey. I'm in Easton, Pennsylvania.
Not at all.
So it's kind of like right over the river, so we're not that far apart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's a nice day today. It's a little bit warm still, but, you could feel traces of fall coming, can't you?
Oh yeah, definitely can see the swing, but September is a beautiful month in this part of the country, as you know.
It sure is, absolutely. You have an amazing background, Scott. I thought maybe we could start a little bit with how you actually got involved in franchising, because you have an amazing career.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's interesting. The first, I guess, about 18 years now in franchising, but that's only half my career, basically. The first half of my career out of grad school was in technology, Marty, companies like Cisco Systems and HP. So I kind of got world-class sales training at an early age. And a buddy of mine, we have a beach house down in LBI, and a buddy of mine one day who was running Realogy, which was Sendent at the time. If you're familiar with all the real estate franchising brands, they're all under one conglomerate in Parsippany, New Jersey. Yeah. Wow. And he was kind enough to get me in the door. I wanted some international experience under my belt. He had just hired a gentleman who headed up all of their brands internationally. And lo and behold, I got a position in franchise sales to run the Sotheby's International Real Estate brand in Asia Pacific. So I got my international experience. I cut my teeth in franchising, learned a lot from that conglomerate, came back to the States and worked with the CEO on launching Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate. And then the rest was history, because a lot of those folks actually went off. It's sort of like a coaching tree in football, where the real estate, the franchising tree, those gentlemen went off. A lot of them went into private equity. They bought brands. Rita's Ice was one of them. And then I came into Rita's as chief development officer. So that story kind of repeated itself a couple of times and really got me going in the world of franchising.
What is it you like most about franchising, Scott? Like, what you've been in franchising for a while now. So what do you like most about it?
Yeah, I think that for me, at the end of the day, it's really the rewarding aspect of helping people, maybe who desire to get out of corporate America, be their own boss, have a lifestyle change. I and my team take that very, very seriously. That's a very awesome responsibility. I enjoy the process to this day, from the very first call, and when my team talks to them about, making sure that we give them, I always tell the candidates, our job as a team is to give you all the ammunition you and your spouse need, usually a spouse, but not always, to make the best decision. And if it's our brand, great. If it's not, that's okay. And hopefully I was able to put you in a good position for something else. So that's what I enjoy about it the most. It really, to this day, is still very rewarding. And then, as you know, a lot of those franchisees become your friends, which is fantastic.
It's interesting you say that, Scott, because when we talk about Massage Heights, I mean it's a family brand, and it's almost like your franchisees become part of the family to some extent, don't they?
100%. And Shane Evans did a tremendous job. Her and her family of getting this brand off the ground back in 2004. And I just had the pleasure of being with Shane for a couple of days in Las Vegas at the MUFC show, and she's as passionate as ever. She was in our booth telling the story, and what they built is just something, to your point, it's family-based first. That never has left the brand. And at the end of the day, you're exactly right. I mean, you're bringing these people into your family.
We had Massage Heights on the show. I mean, it was in the early days, Scott. I mean, I want to go back maybe about 10, 11 years ago, so I mean, and the brand has just come so far, I mean, it's wonderful. The pleasure for me in doing the show is, when I have a franchise, not to say Massage Heights was new at the time, but they were a much younger brand, and now it's like there's such a recognizable brand. I mean, it seems like everyone is familiar with them. Maybe you could talk a little bit about like a brief history of Massage Heights and how they got started. You mentioned they are a family brand, but for our new listeners who might be unfamiliar, maybe you could talk a little bit about them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so San Antonio, Texas based. Shane Evans was actually experiencing as an athlete, in her years after college, she kind of had a back injury, and she was really struggling, not finding the right way, and she stumbled upon sort of massage therapeutically that not only just the relaxing elements of a massage, which are important, but really, and I think now the mindset has shifted for most people who in this industry get a massage on a regular basis, not only for relaxation, but for that weekend warrior who tweaked their back playing golf, me included. We go in monthly and get work done, and and it's great. So that's where the genesis of it, really began, and it led to her wanting to just say, you know what, I'm gonna build a massage experience, and it's called Massage Heights because everything around our massage and facial, which are the two elements within our retreats, we call them retreats, is really sort of elevated. So it's that heightened experience while you're getting a very affordable massage. And so that was the beginning of it. She and the team have done a great job. What I say is super important in terms of training and operations and making sure the franchisees have everything they need. And that's second to none in the industry. We have some really good, strong competitors, and that's a good thing. I think that, having some good competition and, is validation to the market. And it's also just, it's great to see. And then so that has been in place now since 2004. We've constantly built. And to your point, we have great brand equity. But what was amazing to me was we're still sort of in our infancy stages, or first three innings of a ball game, if you will, and that we only have 121 retreats open, Marty, 10 in Canada and about 111 in the U.S. So we have every major market available across the country. Wow. And, when you look at our business model and then you look at multi-unit franchisees looking to play in the space, it's a very attractive offer.
It is amazing, Scott, how the industry has changed, over the course of time. You mentioned like with the customers, and I imagine, with life being so stressful today too, that, massage, as you mentioned, is, relaxation, because all of us, are working all the time. Who would you say are, the customers to Massage Heights? I imagine it's probably changed a little bit over time.
Yeah, it's interesting. The customer base has grown, and I think with certainty, I mean, we're going to have a record year this year, okay? So for the brand, we're on pace for a record system-wide revenue. And when you go back and, this pandemic, unfortunately, has caused a lot of angst, a lot of stress. And if you look at our 2019 numbers, let's throw 2020 out the window just for a second, because that's really not a true apples-to-apples comparison. But of course, we can talk about there's some actually interesting elements within last year that maybe I can share. But if you look at 19 to 21, our numbers they've rebounded extraordinarily well, and they're about 10 or 12% higher than 2019 month to month. And so we are tracking really well. I think that's a testament not only to the brand and the experience, but it's a testament to people's need to come in and get a massage and relieve that stress. So that's something that we've seen. Now within 2020, the thing about our brand too is it's a membership-based recurring revenue model. Right. And this stat, Marty, kind of surprised me. 83% of our members during the pandemic continued to pay. They continued to pay their monthly membership. That's 11% incredible. Froze. Yeah. So, and I think that's because they wanted these businesses to survive. They wanted them to bounce back for the few months they were closed. They knew that they were going to come use the service the day they opened, and they kept paying their memberships. And so from a franchisee owner perspective, no one was immune to this unfortunate pandemic that we're still living. But they weathered the storm a bit better because they actually were still getting revenues in the door with the model.
It's incredible, Scott. What it says to me, I mean, when you say those numbers, it seems to me, it's better than I do. The customers to Massage Heights, I guess it's safe to say that they're pretty brand loyal customers, aren't they?
100%. That's a great point, Marty. Great observation. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things about this brand is because of the heightened experience, because they, kind of like when a woman has a hairstylist and they'll follow that stylist around. Yes. When they find a massage therapist that they like, they're happy and they're going to stay with them. And so we're seeing that play out.
How has technology played a role in the business, Scott? Again, when I had Massage Heights, on a decade ago, I'm sure it's a lot different today. There's mobile technology, and I'm sure, that technology, helped in the pandemic and things like that, as far as, communication and things like that. But how is Massage Heights using technology today?
Yeah, I think to your point, I think a couple key things, let's see, externally for the consumer, but then internally kind of under the covers for the franchisee. So I'll start first externally. They can come in, they could book now on their phones, and it's touchless and all that. I guess pandemic has kind of made that sort of the norm, the new norm.
Yes.
And people have become very accustomed to that. But in a way, it's very productive and efficient, and it helps us understand, hey, you know, John's walking in the door in 3 minutes. Let's make sure we check in and all of that. So from that aspect, it's been really good. Now, look, I mean, we're not a high-tech brand from a consumer perspective, other than the check-in and the check-out. I mean, you're there to get, you know, hands-on massage, right? Or facial. Now, I think where we've seen great strides is, and I was blown away with this because I've been at many brands, as we've kind of alluded to. Internally, we have a proprietary operational system that is just incredible. And so the franchisee can slice and dice and look at every aspect of their business, compare it across the board to other franchisees. What trends are they seeing? What if they pull this lever? What will it do to their business? It's a proprietary system that took a few years to build. So, you know, that's that longevity of the brand and the vision of the brand. But now that we have this, it's a real kind of ace up our sleeve from an operational perspective.
And that's what you're getting, you know, when you buy into a franchise system. Guys, you mentioned, you know, Massage Heights worked years, you know, to create that proprietary operational system. You know,
Correct.
I mean, it's something that you can't build overnight, you know, especially when you're on your own. So it's part of it, isn't it?
100%. And that's why it's so robust, is because, you know, as any growing new emerging brand, when you're starting out, you make stops and starts and, you know, mistakes, and you course correct and pivot. And, you know, so a lot of lessons learned over those 17 years being in business. So, yeah. Right,
absolutely. A fun question we like to ask, Scott, you know, and have someone like yourself on the show, you know, what's been one of the most interesting things that's happened to you since you've been with Massage Heights? I know you probably have hundreds of stories. I know COVID's always been a theme, you know, when I ask the question, you know, because nobody was expecting that. But, you know, does anything else stand out, you know, over the years?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I've only been at Massage Heights since August 1st, so a little over a month. Now, I've been in the industry a long time, but, you know, when I saw Susan come over, I've known Susan a long time, our new CEO. She's just fantastic, great reputation. I had the pleasure to work with her at Lunchbox Wax Salon a little bit, and we got really we really got into the strategy. And I said, boy, you know, with Susan coming on board, and CG Funk, who's sort of a guru and so well known in the industry. That was a head turner when
I saw the press
a couple weeks ago. Scott. Yeah. So I was like, I want to be on board with this train. I love this brand. I love the people behind it. And you know, I guess you know, it's just to me in a short period of time, what gives me great pleasure is just every single person out of San Antonio to the FBCs out in the field, the business consultants. Everybody is just an A-plus person and very passionate and committed to the brand. And, you know, Marty, when you get in your 50s and you get up there a little bit, you know, for me anyway, what I care about is working for good people, working for a good team, working for a good brand. And I couldn't be happier with that.
Is there a difference for you, Scott, in working with a family brand? I haven't had, you know, a lot, you know, out of the 750 shows, you know, we've done up to this point. There hasn't been a lot of family brands, you know, but is there a difference for you, or do you notice a difference in working with a family brand versus, you know, a non-family brand?
Yeah, great question. And I do. I think, and it's not always easy, because sometimes, how do I say this? The family brand will stay engaged even though they're removed, and that can cause some hiccups. I would applaud the Evans, you know, Shane and her family for doing what they've done, taking this brand to where it's at, and then yet allowing us, you know, to really go in and drive the business. Now, of course, you know, we lean on them. We'll go back and talk to them, and they're very engaged. But they do indeed allow us to kind of to run the ship at this point, which I take, you know, I know Susan and CG and the team that we inherited, you know, Russell Hoff at operations is probably the best I've ever seen. You know, these folks, all of them, we appreciate what they've built, and we take that as a great responsibility. And the fact that they've kind of turned the reins over, so to speak. So you feel the elements of the family heritage for sure, but you also want to carry that torch to the next level.
So what types of characteristics do you look for or do you want in your new franchisees, Scott? I'm sure there's something that you look for, that you realize that they're going to be a good match for the brand. What's important to you?
Yeah, great question. And, I think the most important thing is being passionate about getting into the space. You don't have to be a massage therapist to run it. You would hire what's called a retreat director, who that person would be, but you still have to be passionate about the space. I get asked the question a lot. Well, is this an absentee business, or And I would say, and I candidly tell people, look, I really don't know any franchise, even though they may say it is, that is truly absentee. If it is, right? It's like you only get one shot of your grand opening. You only get one shot of opening up in the community. And so I tell our candidates, honestly, you really need to be engaged in the beginning and then hire a great retreat director. But it's also someone that, is coachable or is able to follow a system. And I say that because there are a lot of entrepreneurial people that that's hard for them. They think they can do it better, and they'll go a little bit off the script. And that's the beauty of franchising, is you really don't need to do that. If you trust the process, trust the system, follow the system, learn from your colleagues. Why is Johnny doing this so well in Seattle, Washington? What can I glean from him to make my business a little better, versus the sort of know-it-all types that think they can do it on their own. So those, true. And again, that's okay if that's your skill set. You're probably better in some other business. Exactly. But we take it to heart that you really need to and that comes clear through the process, Marty. We have a pretty good development process, and it's like even this week we have a discovery day, and we're awarding a franchise based on us wanting to partner together, and both sides have to feel that it's a great opportunity. So, but those are some of the things we look for. Obviously passion, business acumen helps, but also we have all the tools and training that we can get you there. I think what we can't teach is sort of passion, discipline, willing to follow the plan, right? Those things are just sort of table stakes. Yeah.
But what about the training, Scott? I'm sure the training changed maybe a little bit. COVID was happening, but how does training typically, maybe in the past or in the future, how does that work?
Yeah, we have extensive training at Massage Heights, and to your point, some of it has gone virtual, and we actually revamped. We have a great learning management system, so the LMS is actually even evolving as we speak. And it's I have to tell you, Marty, they put. I said when I joined, put me through all the training as if I was a new franchisee. And by the way, I still haven't gotten through all of it. I'm still taking classes on the weekends and at night. It's very thorough, very robust. Yeah. And obviously we call them camps. So there's camp 1, camp 2, camp 8, and there's different stages. Some are, obviously need to be in person. A lot now is LMS, but then at the very end, of course, we're actually in their retreats, working with them, making sure that, that they're really ready to go when they open their doors. And so very robust training, very thorough. It's only going to get better with some of the people that we've added recently. Couldn't be happier about that.
That's terrific. What is a typical day like for a Massage Heights franchisee, Scott? You mentioned, it's not really an absentee ownership, business. So, if you could paint like a little bit of a picture of, what goes on during the day, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. We have one in my town. I have the advantage of having one right here in Morristown. I'll be meeting with the owner tomorrow for coffee. I get together with him once a month. And, Dave will be, let's see, he'll get up, he'll go in and check in, like anything else. One day last month, the AC wasn't working in the building, and he spent 2 hours trying to get that fixed from the landlord. Sometimes those things happen, right?
Sure,
but
of course.
It's not always the sexy stuff, but the owner was there making sure that that he was there to fix that, and they did. And Starbucks is another tenant there, right? So obviously there was a lot of pull and wait and that done. Yeah, but they come in, they check on the business, they rely on their retreat director. They're managing the numbers. They can do it from remotely and look at the numbers. If there's something that's not right, Dave's close enough in this example I'm portraying where he could get in the car and be there in 10 minutes and go check in and fix anything that needs to be fixed. But mostly he's there. The owners are there to check in on their staff, keep their staff very happy, and keep their books full. They're always out there doing grassroots marketing. In town I live in, there's an Athleta next door. There's all kinds of things. It's kind of a retail type town with a green, and so you're out there shaking hands. You're out there promoting the new Clean Juice franchise that's across the street. Hey, Orange Theory, it's the same customer that goes to Orange Theory or Yoga. Their juice is getting the such height. So the owner is out there really just being part of the fabric of the community, driving the community, being an ambassador of the brand and saying, hey, look, folks, here in Morristown, we've got this great service, this great elevated experience for you to come in and get relaxed. And that's really the main job of the franchise owner. And then the underpinnings of that are relying upon your retreat director and the great massage therapist to actually do the work to make sure that the customer's happy and comes back.
And I have someone on the show like yourself, Scott. I mean, I have to ask, because we've been doing the show 14 years, and one of the things we learned is that a lot of the people that listen to our show, they know they want to get involved in franchising, but a lot of times they don't know where to begin because when I got involved in it, I think it was like around 1999. I think they said something like there was like 1,200 concepts, and I think today I see numbers are like 3,000 different systems or 3,500 systems.
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, I mean, from everything you've learned up to this point, what advice would you give to someone who is just kind of like starting their franchise search? Where do they begin?
Yeah, I think, a good place to begin is to really sit down, think about, first of all, what segment you might be gravitating towards, right? Some might have a passion for fitness and they want to go into fitness or health or wellness. We're sort of in that health, wellness, self-care category, right? And think about, A, what you might gravitate towards. B, what does that macro market look like? We're in a $17 billion market here, right? So what does that market look like? Is it big enough to fulfill my passions and my needs and wants? And is it aligned with what you want to build in a community? Look, I'm passionate about self-care. I'm passionate about the healing powers of it, the relaxation powers of it. I want to bring that to my community. I would enjoy my sense of running a small business with great unit economics, which, obviously at the end of the day, you want to do it also to feed your family and be well off. So does the back of the napkin math work, as I like to call it, the unit economics work. Yeah. And then so if you check the boxes on those, then you can start getting a little more granular into, okay, well, who are the players in that space? Who might I look at? And quite frankly, you might have two that are neck and neck, but one has no availability, right? Like, one of the advantages to us is, is just the availability to open 2 or 3 in a market or 5 in a market or even 1. So, that then becomes, how reasonable is it? How can I open 1 in my town? Does it make sense? And then really getting involved, I would say, reaching out to the brand and fill out a really quick short order form, takes 3 minutes, then get in the queue, get in the process, talk to the people, and talk to several people, talk to 2, 3, 4, until you really feel like this is the right home for me. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, Scott. So if you could look into the future, Scott, so like if we had a crystal ball, 3 years, 5 years down the road, you mentioned, there's a lot of open territory, isn't there, for Massage Heights? I mean, where do you see the company maybe 3 years, 5 years down the road?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be doubling, in 3 years, if we don't have double the units, I'd be surprised. So we're really going into maybe, getting into the 250 range over the next, I'd say, 2.5 to 3 years. We're going to continue to go international, I think, because we're already there, albeit in Canada. It's a great international market to start. Right. But with our international experience, we think we could really get into other international markets, and very strategically. A lot of times, one thing that we don't do in our model, Marty, is sometimes people sell area developer agreements, and they say, "Oh, I sold someone 20 units." That can and cannot work. That's probably for another day. But But what I'll say is we love, because of the turf we have, we do it very strategically. We look for people that want to open 3 or 5 over time. That way they can kind of own a market themselves. And we'll do very, very sort of strategic and taste growth in various markets, both here in the U.S. and then internationally as well. So I'd say double. We think this brand easily can get to, 500-600 units over the next 5 to 7 years.
I mean, I guess in terms of franchising, I mean, you guys are there, Scott. As I said, I got to become familiar with the brand a long time ago, and now I've always understood. They said like the number is like, they always had the magic number for some reason, like over that 100 mark for some reason, which you guys are over that mark, So, I mean, it's fantastic to see where you are today, compared to a decade ago. So, I mean, it sounds like you are there, but and now that you have this established brand, or even the brand is more powerful, I don't want to say it's going to be easier, right? But I think it puts you in a better position, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, Mark, great insight. And I think that's what candidates, some sophisticated and savvy candidates, which most of ours are, when they explore this, they get it. They know that, look, we're at that 120 threshold. We've crossed the chasm. We're not a young infant brand, but yet we have so much growth to go. So all the other elements are there: the training, the operations, the support, then, and they're done that, the lessons learned, 14 years in this business. And yet now, gosh, you can really build, where do I want to go? And every day we're having conversations with, okay, how many do you want in Atlanta? How many do you want in Memphis? Let's finish Vegas and do 3 here. And so, they really can come in, these candidates, and have the luxury of, I would say the only exception to that is Houston, because obviously we're San Antonio based. Houston is almost sold out, but we're doing one. Yeah, but other than that, you have the luxury of really coming into a well-established brand with a great opportunity to take down a market or two. So that's really what we're excited about.
That's terrific. What's the best way, Scott, for our listeners to get more information on Massage Heights? Of course, there's the franchise opportunity, but maybe even the service itself. Are there any websites you want to kind of direct our listeners to?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would say just certainly if you just go out to massageheights.com, you'll be able to go out and find your local retreat. But then from a franchising perspective, MassageHeightsFranchise.com, MassageHeightsFranchise.com.
Okay.
And you would just fill out a couple fields, and then you'll get on my team to help you with that process.
That's fantastic. Well, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you today, Scott. I'd like to, invite you back over maybe the next year or so. I don't want to wait 10 years again to have you back.
No. I'll come back, and who knows, maybe I'll take the ride over the river and we'll do it in the studio.
That sounds fantastic. It was great talking to you today, Scott. And we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott, the president of Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting Franchise Interviews many years now, and during that time we've had some incredible quotes on the show. Today's great quote in franchising comes from Tom Scarta, and Tom is a franchise consultant for Franchoice, and he's the author of The Magic of Choosing Uncertainty. And we've had Tom on the show 2 times over the last 14 years, and Tom is great at providing analogies on topics like motivation and entrepreneurship. So today's great quote in franchising is called "It Doesn't Hurt Enough." We'll let Tom explain why.
10 years with Franchoice, helping them to find businesses. And what I find, and you know this from the industry, is that majority of people who look at franchising do not buy a franchise. And the number one reason is fear of the unknown. Yeah. So they go, instead of choosing, see, at the end of the process, you know, they're looking at great companies because we vet them. We know who's good, who's not. And you can never deny that the companies are not good when you go down the road at looking at them.
Right.
The choice is not what franchise to buy. The choice is the choice between uncertainty and unhappiness.
That's interesting.
And most people go back to the unhappiness, and because there's a comfort in that, right? So at least I get a paycheck. At least I know I have a job. At least I can pay my bills. And I got to tell you, if you think you're on this earth to pay your bills, you're always going to have a mild kind of frustration that goes through your life.
It's very powerful, you know, what you said, Tom. You know, you know, we've seen that on the show too. You know, I mean, I've heard numbers like at like 1 out of 100 people will say yes to, you know, going the franchise alternative, or they'll give some kind of like excuse, like, you know, well, it's not perfect, you know. And I remember you even saying this, you know, a long time ago, is, you know, there's not really that always that perfect opportunity. You know what I mean? I mean, there's always. I think the analogy you used a long time ago was even when, you know, you buy a house. You know what I mean? There's always going to be something with that house that you can always fix. You know what I mean? So there's never that perfect opportunity, and I suspect you get that from a lot of people because they're so terrified of going forward. There's like, well, I don't think this is the perfect opportunity for me. I suspect you probably get that a lot, don't you?
Yeah, and you're right. I think it was in Joe Matthews' great book, Street Smart Franchising.
Yeah.
He talks about that. 1 out of every 100 people that look at franchising actually buy a franchise, and that the thing for me, Marty, is it makes me sad inside because I talk to these folks that have great backgrounds. They're phenomenal at what they do. And they can easily translate their skills into their own business and really live happily ever after. And they don't. And it's always because of fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm. You use a powerful word, Tom. You know, you used happy, you know, and I think it's interesting that how many people there are out there that are, you know, working day to day, and they're just, you know, as you said, they're paying their bills, you know, but they're not happy, are they? You know, and I know a lot of those people who are working for, let's say, the city, and you know, they're going to get their pension at some point, but they just aren't happy. And I can't imagine working 40 years and not being happy, and you wonder, it's really that powerful, and that's why I think your book is so important. The magic of choosing uncertainty is that you lived it, haven't you? I mean, I'm sure you've been through all of those things that a lot of your clients certainly have going through their head, don't they?
Yeah, I've been in their shoes, and that's why I kind of enjoy I love what I do, because I'm really able to speak to people on a a one-to-one basis that I not only have empathy, I've been there, I've done it, and maybe it's not for everybody, and that's fine. I get that. Not everybody should buy a franchise, believe me.
Right.
But but when you're there and you're on the cusp, and it's the 11th hour and you have to make a decision, and you run away from it, it's really, really sad. And from my perspective, it is, and I think from their perspective, I just read an article last week that said 86% of Americans want to change their job today.
Wow, that's incredible.
And I think it was
86%.
86% of Americans want to change their job today, and probably maybe 1% will, get out of the corporate rat race. A lot of people will change jobs, and they're going from one fire to another fire, and they really don't solve anything. But I'll tell you that a great story that I share with everybody, and I think that it will go very, very well here. If you can imagine for a second, there's these two guys sitting on a porch, like two old hillbillies, right? And they're drinking their sarsaparilla, and they're rocking in their rocking chairs. And one of them has a hound dog, and the hound dog's sitting on the floor. And every once in a while, that hound dog lets out a yelp.
Yeah.
So one of these guys, one guy says to the other guy with the dog, "What's wrong with your dog?" And he said, "Nothing's wrong with the dog." So he said, "Well, why does he yelp like that?" Yeah. And he said, "He's laying on a nail." And he said, "Well, why doesn't he get off the nail?" And he said, "Well, I guess it just doesn't hurt bad enough."
Wow. That's a great analogy. We're going to have to use it. We have this great quotes in franchising podcast. We're going to have to put that one in there. I haven't heard you tell that story, but I think that's I mean that's a great one. I mean, it show how we're willing to live our lives like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It frustrates the heck out of me. And in the book, I give people what I call fuel for change, which are different exercises at the end of a couple of different chapters where you can go through changing your mindset about things. Yeah. And you realize after a while, all your stuff, all your baggage in that fear department essentially comes from your parents and from your upbringing telling you, no, don't do that, be careful, and if you lose, you're a loser. And that's not the case at all, because when you take a chance and if it doesn't work out for some reason, there's more life lessons in that failure than there is in any success. And I can tell you that directly from my smoothie experience.
Sure.
There's so much more to learn when you're trying to climb out of a hole than standing on top of a hill.
Yeah, and it's it must be interesting. I'm one of those people, as I mentioned, Tom. My mom is still waiting for me to go apply for the post office. I said I'm going to be 50 years old in 3 years. And I just recently completed my doctorate degree last year, and I think she's still waiting for me to go work for the post office. She just tried to instill that in me as a kid, and maybe that was my reason I went the other direction. It just didn't seem gratifying to me, not to pick on anyone who works for the post office, but I wouldn't have had that. And I love the word you use. You use this word fuel, and we had the great Michael Gerber on our show, and I know you're a fan of his as well.
If you'd like to hear that whole interview with Tom Scarta, all you have to do is go to franchiseinterviews.com. You can go to our franchises listed alphabetically page, and you can find Tom Scarta there. Or you can go to franchise interviews listed by category, and you can go to our franchise experts page and listen to the interview there. And finally, we just want to thank everyone for making this Great Quotes in Franchising podcast such a big hit. And we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.